Let's dive in and break down what really happened. It all started when Donald Trump, sitting at the iconic Oval Office desk, slapped a massive 50% tariff on a wide range of Indian goods: textiles, jewelry, auto parts, electronics, and more. Practically anything with a Made in India label was suddenly much more expensive to bring into the US. Trump claimed India's tariffs were the highest in the world and that American companies like Harley-Davidson were getting a raw deal. He pointed to motorcycles, cars, and even agricultural products as examples of unfair treatment. He framed the move as a bold stand for American workers, saying India was winning while America was losing. Trump argued that it was time to level the playing field and bring jobs back home. This wasn't a minor tweak. It was a dramatic escalation, signaling a new era of economic hardball with a key U.S. partner. The world watched as tensions rose between two of the largest democracies. The 50% figure was meant to shock, high enough to threaten entire sectors of trade. American importers and Indian exporters alike scrambled to assess the fallout. Trump's goal? Force India's hand, making it so costly for Indian exporters that Prime Minister Modi would have to give in. The pressure was on, and Indian businesses faced tough choices. The announcement sent shockwaves through global markets and shattered hopes for a friendly trade deal. Investors worried about a domino effect, with other countries possibly following suit. Trump took to social media telling Americans, "They're ripping us off, and I'm the only one who can fix it." His tweets fueled debate and dominated headlines for days. This wasn't just policy, it was a public spectacle, turning a complex issue into a simple story of fairness and national pride. Trump's supporters rallied behind him, while critics warned of economic fallout. With that, the US-India relationship shifted from strategic partnership to open economic conflict, setting the stage for a turbulent chapter in global trade. Why did it come to this? How did months of discussions and diplomatic efforts unravel so completely? Because months of negotiations went nowhere, leaving both sides frustrated and at an impasse. US and Indian officials clashed over core demands. America wanted India to slash tariffs and open its markets, especially for farm goods and medical devices, which are crucial sectors for the US economy. India, protecting millions of farmers, refused to open the floodgates to cheap imports, fearing it would devastate local agriculture. Meanwhile, India wanted its preferential trade status restored, a key demand for its economic strategy. And easier H-1B visas, non-negotiables for Modi's government, which relies heavily on the tech sector. Both sides dug in, each seeing the other as unreasonable and unwilling to compromise. The US called India protectionist. India called the US a bully, each side blaming the other for the breakdown. The talks collapsed over these irreconcilable differences, leaving a void where cooperation once seemed possible. The US wanted pure reciprocity. India argued for special treatment as a developing economy, a status it holds dear. With no middle ground, the Trump administration decided to use tariffs as leverage, escalating tensions further. The failed negotiations gave Trump the perfect excuse. "We tried to be reasonable, but they wouldn't listen," he declared. The era of negotiation was over. The era of confrontation had begun, marking a new chapter in US-India relations. The pizza order was officially canceled, symbolizing the end of what could have been a fruitful agreement. India didn't just take the hit. It hit back, sending a clear signal that it wouldn't be pushed around on the global stage. The government's response was swift and calculated, aiming to show strength both to its own citizens and to the world. Delhi announced retaliatory tariffs on a range of American products, including California almonds, Washington apples, and Kentucky bourbon, deliberately targeting goods from politically sensitive states in the US. This move was designed to put pressure on American lawmakers by hitting their home constituencies. The message was unmistakable. If you make our goods expensive, we'll do the same to yours. It was a high-stakes game of economic chess, with each side waiting to see who would blink first. The stakes were enormous. The US is India's largest export market, And these new tariffs threaten not just billions of dollars in trade, but also the livelihoods of millions of Indian workers who depend on exports for their jobs and income. For the US, losing access to India's rapidly growing market meant real pain for American farmers, tech giants like Apple, and countless other companies. It also put at risk a key strategic partnership in a region where alliances matter more than ever. The tit-for-tat tariffs created a vicious cycle: higher costs for businesses and consumers on both sides, and growing uncertainty for anyone involved in cross-border trade. American families soon saw prices rise on everyday goods, while Indian exporters faced the real possibility of financial disaster. Small businesses in both countries were especially vulnerable, struggling to absorb the shock. The trade war wasn't just numbers on a screen. It was hitting wallets and jobs everywhere, from rural farms to bustling city markets. Layoffs and uncertainty became the new normal for many. The broader US-India alliance, once seen as a pillar of stability, was suddenly at risk. Diplomatic relations grew tense as both sides dug in their heels. What started as a simple tariff dispute had now escalated into a full-blown economic and political crisis, grabbing headlines and worrying investors around the world. Both sides were feeling the pain, but neither was backing down. The standoff was costing jobs, straining businesses, and fueling public anger. The trade war had become a pocketbook issue for millions, turning global politics into a daily struggle for ordinary families on both sides of the world. As India's tariffs kicked in, Trump amped up the rhetoric. At rallies, he called the US-India trade relationship a total disaster, blaming India for decades of unfairness. He claimed India had secretly offered to drop tariffs, then backtracked, upping the pressure and urgency. The administration threatened even broader tariffs and hinted at new restrictions on visas and investments. Businesses in both countries were left in limbo, unable to plan for the future. Trump's unpredictable words and actions turned the dispute into a nerve-wracking waiting game. The public war of words made quiet diplomacy nearly impossible. Just as the trade war peaked, Modi was seen meeting with China's Xi Jinping. For Trump, this looked like India cozying up to America's top rival. Bad optics in the middle of a dispute. Trump seized on the meeting, using it to justify his tough stance. If India's flirting with China, why should we cut them any slack? In reality, India and China are rivals, but facing US tariffs, India was signaling it had options. This move complicated America's Indo-Pacific strategy, which relied on India as a counterweight to China. By fighting with India, the US risked pushing Delhi and Beijing closer, at least on trade. The trade war was now tangled up in global power politics. What started as a tariff fight was now a geopolitical chess match. The US was learning that economic pressure could have unintended consequences. The dragon in the room was making everyone nervous. Both sides dug in with their own justifications. Trump's team said the tariffs were about fairness, leveling the playing field for American companies locked out of India. India fired back, calling the US tariffs unfair and an attack on its sovereignty. Each side pointed to the other's barriers and subsidies, airing years of grievances. The dispute became a public blame game, with both sides convinced they were the victim. The US saw itself as finally standing up for free trade. India saw itself as defending its developing economy. This wasn't just about numbers, it was about national pride and identity. The mutual accusations made compromise nearly impossible. The trade war was now about whose story would win on the world stage. With both sides entrenched, the conflict dragged on. Just as things got heated, Russia entered the picture. India's long-standing ties with Russia, especially in defense and energy, clashed with US sanctions. India ramped up purchases of discounted Russian oil, citing national security and economic stability. Washington saw this as undermining its sanctions and penalized India with secondary duties. India argued it was being unfairly singled out, pointing to Europe's continued Russian energy imports. The US expected partners to fall in line. India insisted on strategic autonomy. The Russia angle added a new layer of tension, making a trade deal even harder. Now the dispute wasn't just about tariffs, it was about global alliances and sovereignty. The economic fight was now a geopolitical minefield. Reactions to the trade war were sharply divided. Trump's camp saw it as a long overdue correction, forcing India to play fair. Diplomats and officials tried to downplay the drama, working behind the scenes to keep the partnership alive. Experts warned that the tariffs would backfire, pushing India closer to China and Russia. Indian leaders felt unfairly targeted and vowed not to bow to U.S. pressure. The hardening attitudes on both sides made a quick resolution unlikely. The dispute was no longer just about trade, it was about trust and the future of a vital partnership. Everyone was reading the board differently, and no one saw an easy way out. So, where does this leave us? The $87 billion US-India trade war is a high-stakes conflict with global consequences. What began as a tariff spat has spiraled into a confrontation involving geopolitics, sanctions, and eroded goodwill. The core issues, market access for the US, protection for Indian farmers, remain deeply entrenched. The dispute disrupts supply chains, fuels inflation, and risks undermining America's Indo-Pacific strategy. A fractured US-India relationship could create a power vacuum in Asia, benefiting China. The big question, will cooler heads prevail, or will the cycle of escalation continue? Resolving this will take real diplomacy and painful concessions on both sides. As of October 29, 2025, the game is still in play, but both sides are losing. The world is watching to see if they can stop before it's checkmate.